Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf, which is Pesachim Chafei. We're on Chav Dalet Amud Beis, 11 lines from the bottom of the Amud, and we're picking up our discussion regarding Isurei Achila and Isurei Hana, so things which are also to be eaten or to derive benefit from. Malchus will only apply if he should partake in these things kederech, in the conventional manner, in the normal way. But if he eats shaloi kederech achila, or has ana, shaloi kederech hana, for instance, he'll eat the raw fat or place it on his wound, in that case, no malchus is applied. Says Abai, there are some exceptions to this rule. Amar Abai, 11 lines from the bottom, Hakol Moedim, all would agree, B'Kilaya Kerem, when it comes to Kilaya Kerem, so you have this plant which was planted in the vineyard, it becomes Asur B'Achila, even Asur B'Hana. So when it comes to that type of Isur, over there, Shaloikin Alein, Afilu Shaloi Kederech Hana Asan. Malchus will apply even if it should derive benefit in an abnormal way. My timer, why is this different? Mishum, the like Sivbu Achila, because there is no term Achila employed there. So yeah, when the Torah speaks about don't eat it, so don't eat it, and sometimes don't eat it can apply to Hana as well, as we learned earlier in the Gemara. Achila implies conventional manner, the normal way. But by Kalai Kerem, where there's no Lashon Achila, Rashi will bring the pasuk Pentigdash, which teaches us that it's Asur B'Achila B'Hana. Since there's no Lashon Achila used, it doesn't have to be in the normal way. Any type of Hana would be Asur. Continues the Gemara. Meisvei b'avakashim ha'braisa, which would indicate otherwise. Isi ben Yehuda Omer, menayin lebasar b'chalav shu asur. From where do we know that basar b'chalav is asur? So if you cook milk and meat together, how do you know it's asur? Asur b'achila, asur b'ana. What is the makar? Nemar kan ki am kadosh ata. So over here, meaning by basar b'chalav, the pasuk says, you're a holy nation, and the pasuk includes you're not meant to cook milk and meat and milk together and meat together. So the pasuk uses the lashon ki am kadosh ata, and elsewhere v'nemar lahalon, elsewhere by treifa, the pasuk also uses this type of term v'anshe kodesh tziyunli, and the pasuk there is speaking about the isser of eating treifa. So we draw a parallel. Mala halan asur, just like over there by treifa, it's asur ba'achila. Afkan asur, likewise over here by basar b'chalav, there's an isur achila. Finally, ela ba'achila. So through this gzeira shava, we learn isur achila, because treifa is asur ba'achila. B'hana menayin. What about the isur to derive benefit? From where do we know that basar b'chalav is asur b'hana as well? Amras kavachomer. You can draw that from a kavachomer. Uma orla shloi nevde ba'avera. Since we find that orla, although no avera was done, he planted a fruit tree. There's no avera done in the actual planting. Yeah, the first 3 years you're asked to eat it, but there's no avera done in the actual planting. Still, we say asura b'hana. One cannot even have hana from the orla fruit. Basar b'chalav shenev de b'avera. So basar b'chalav, where an avera was committed, one can't cook basar with chalav. So since there was an avera done, einay din shei asur b'hana, of course, there would be an isur hana as well. Let's see Rashi inside. 4 lines from the bottom. So Rashi begins, Kilaya Kerem, Kiksiv Pentigdash Amalaya. So this is when one plants some type of seed, a vegetable inside a vineyard. Pentigdash. Pentigdash implies that it's asur. The mashma lo yisenu mimenu, because kedusha means it's meant to be separate. Sometimes it can have a positive connotation. Sometimes it just means keep away from it, actually in a negative connotation. So pentigdash here means it's asur. It's meant to be kept separate. The mashma leisenu mimenu el tisrafenu, burn it. Upen, pentigdash, the word pen, lavhu. It's a lav, you're not meant to have ana. So how do we know that basar b'chalav, that's the Bryson. Now, how do we know basar b'chalav is asur b'achila and b'hana? So we say, just as the treifa is asur, says Rashi shu asur b'achila, likewise basar b'chalav, which is connected to treifa through that hekesh, Kiam Kadosh, which says by Basar B'chalav, and Anshe Kodesh by Trefa. We connect the two terms of Kedusha to each other. This is Exer Shava. Just as over there, the Asar B'achila, here as well. What about Isser Hana? We learn that from a Kavachim. Since we find the Orla, although there was no Avera done, says Rashi, Shaloi Nevda by Avera, B'netiusa, by its planting, still it's Asar B'hana. How do we know it's Asar B'hana? We actually learned this earlier, because the Pasuk says, Areglim lo ya'achel, and the Gemara and the Dwasha there, that it includes Hana as well. So that's a given. Likewise, Basar B'chalav, certainly where there's an Avera done, Basar B'chalav Shenevda by Avera, says Rashi Keshe when he cooked the Basar B'chalav together, because Minat Torah, Basar B'chalav is only Asar through cooking. So he cooked it, and that created a new entity of Basar B'chalav. V'avar lav alav loisavashal, he was over on the lav loisavashal, certainly would be Asar B'hana. So we know Isra Achila from the Dikter Shava, and Hana from the Kavachim. Continues the Gemara. How could you compare to Arla? Arla seems to have a chumrah, a more stringent element that Basar B'chalav does not have. Mala Arla, says the Gemara, Shaken Lehoisel Shasa Kosher. Arla seems to have a chumrah because, there was no point in time when the Arla was mutter. This Arla fruit was and always was Asar. As soon as it began budding and growing, it was Asar. Toimar Basar B'chalav Shoisel Shasa Kosher, as opposed to Basar B'chalav, which had a Shasa Kosher, it had a point in time that it was mutter. Rashi says before you place the meat into the milk, it was mutter. So since originally this item was mutter, perhaps it's not as stringent. It wasn't created and generated the Isser. So perhaps you can't compare it to Erla and derive Isser Hana from there. Says the Gemara, Chametz v'Pesach echech. You can prove from Chametz and Pesach. Shahoisel Shas HaKosher. That although there as well, there was a Shas HaKosher, there was a point in time when the Chametz was mutter, before Pesach. V'Asar B'hana, and it's still Asar B'hana. We learned this earlier, of course, that the Chametz on Pesach is Asar B'hana. So likewise, the Basar B'chalav, despite the fact that it had a Shas HaKosher, it can still have Isser Hana. Mala Chametz v'Pesach, Sheken on Nishkaris. How could you compare it to Chametz on Pesach? Over there's a Chumrah that is not present by Basar B'chalav. You know what it is? There's Karis involved. Toimar b'Basar B'chalav she'ena on Nishkaris, as opposed to Basar B'chalav, where there's no Karis punishment involved. So how can you learn from Chametz on Pesach? Kilaya Kerem Yechichu. So now we'll go over to Kilaya Kerem to prove that Karis is not a determinant. Why? She'ein onish karis, because over there, despite that, there's no onish karis, v'asar b'hana, and there is isar hana, as Rashi brought, because Tigdash teaches us it's completely off limits. So we use the combination, the combined sources, the Arla, the Kalei Kerem, and the Chametz, to make our point, to prove that Basar B'chalav as well will be asar b'hana. Because if you can't learn directly from Arla, let's also apply the Chametz. And if that's problematic, let's apply Kalei Kerem. So through all together, they will provide a source for the Isra Hana Basar B'chalav. Okay, so this is the Bryce. Now we're going to use this as a Kasha on Abai. Abai was the one who said that when it comes to Kalei Kerem, Malchus will apply even if one derives Hana Shaloi Kederach. Ve'im Isa, if that's true that Kalei Kerem will apply even Shaloi Kederach, Nifrich, the Gemara can now refute the connection here and say, well, you can't learn from Kalei Kerem to Basar B'chalav. You know why? Mal Kalei Kerem, Shekem Loikin Alein, Afil Shaloi Kederach Hanasa. How can we compare it to Kalei Kerem, where there's Malchus even Shaloi Kederach, as opposed to Basar B'chalav? So this will seem to be a Kasha on Abaye. If you say that Kalei Kerem is applicable even Shaloi Kederach, then you can go and draw a distinction between Kalei Kerem, where it's Shaloi Kederach, and Basar B'chalav, where it would seem that there would be no Malchus Shaloi Kederach. Says the Gemara Va'abaye, he'll respond, Tomer b'mai, as opposed to what? So what are you proposing? You're saying a pircha. Well, you can't derive from Kalei Kerem because there's Malchus even Shaloi Kederach, as opposed to what? Tomer b'mai, as opposed to what? Tomer b'Basar B'chalav, as opposed to Basar B'chalav. She'ein loikin olav ela derech hanasai, that malchus only applies kederech. So that's your pircha. If indeed what I said is true, that Klai HaKerem will have malchus even shleik kederech, so how could you compare? Perhaps Klai HaKerem is more stringent because malchus applies even shleik kederech, as opposed to basar b'chalav, where malchus will only apply derech hanasai if you consume it and have hana in a normal manner. Is that what you're suggesting? Atu basar b'chalav achilik sivbei? Atu basar b'chalav, is that true? Is that true that basar b'chalav will only be asr, only have malchus derech achila? You're assuming that as a given, as a fact. The Torah doesn't employ the word achila by basar b'chalav either. Right? The Gemara learned the entire issa from basar b'chalav. Well, number one, the achila, because we connected it to treifa, through that zera shava. But within the context of basar b'chalav itself, we don't find that the Torah uses the word achila. So perhaps basar b'chalav as well will apply even shalei kederech. So you're right. In both cases, Klai HaKerem and basar b'chalav, the malchus applies even shalei kederech if he consumes it in a abnormal manner. So there's no more pircha here. Yeah, just as Klai HaKerem will have even shalei kederech, basar b'chalav as well. So they're both very similar and can be connected and learn from each other. And the other Madam who asked the kasha on Abaye from this brisa and said, well, according to you, Abaye, that Klai HaKerem will have even shalei kederech, so how could you compare it to basar b'chalav where it only applies kederech? That Madam will hold. Savar, he held, that's why basar b'chalav was derived from nevela, and that pasuk Rashi actually says that nevela is lavdafka, it means mitreifa. We learned it from treifa. Mad nevela derech hana, just as over there, the malchus only applies derech hana, because the pasuk there certainly uses the word achila. Pasuk says he's not meant to eat. Treifa lo yisochelu. Af basar b'chalav derech hana asay. Likewise, basar b'chalav is only asur. There's only malchus when it's derech hana asay. So according to that shita, meaning the Madama who asked on Abaye from this brisa, he says, well, if Klai HaKerem is even shalei kederech, how couldn't the brisa compare basar b'chalav, which would only apply kederech? He learned that, yeah, basar b'chalav only applies kederech because basar b'chalav is learned from treifa, where the pasuk uses the word achila, which implies only kederech. So likewise, basar b'chalav will only apply kederech. So how could you compare it to Kalayim, where it also applies shalei kederech? Ve'abaye, however, Abaye will respond, no, you're right. Although we learn the Isra Achila by basar b'chalav from treifa, but at the end of the day, that's why the Torah does not actually state the word achila in the context of basar b'chalav, loymar shalikin olav avlu shalik derech hanasai, to teach us, yeah, that malchus by basar b'chalav applies even shalik derech. So they're both equal. Basar b'chalav and Klai HaKerem in both cases, malchus applies even shalik derech. So that explains why and how we can learn one from the other in this price. And the point is that where the Torah uses the word achila, that indicates kederech. Achila means the normal manner, the normal way of eating, the conventional method. But when there's no achila employed, for instance by Klai HaKerem, or as Abaye maintains by basar b'chalav, there's no achila, so any form of hana, you're enjoying, you're ingesting, you're deriving benefit from this item. That's what's asur. Regardless of the way, of the manner and method you're employing to eat it or to derive benefit. So according to Abaye, whether Klai HaKerem or basar b'chalav, the malchus applies even shaloi kederech achila or hana. Says the Gemara. Okay, so we derived the Isser Hana of basar b'chalav from this Kal V'chomer. It was actually a joint limud from Arla, Chometz of Pesach, and Klai HaKerem. For Lifrich, why can't we use a pircha as follows? Malik Klai HaKerem, shekein lo yhoisa lo shas hakosher. Klai HaKerem is more stringent, it's more severe. You know why? Because there was no shas kosher. This plant, this thing that grew, this fruit, vegetable that grew inside the klei kerem, was asur and is asur. There was never a point that it had heter, as opposed to the basar b'chalav, which was mutter. At a certain point in history, it was mutter before it was mixed or cooked with the milk. So perhaps klei kerem, is asur b'hano, but not basar b'chalav. Amar of Adabar Avazois Ameris. Evidently, we see from here that by klei kerem as well, there was no shas kosher. Why? Klei kerem ikaron ne'esorin. There was a shas kosher. Sorry, that even by klei kerem there was a point in time that it was mutter. Why? Because klei kerem ikaron ne'esorin. Not only is the addition, the fruit or whatever that grows in the kerem is asur, but the entire plant, the ikar, the actual plant becomes asur. The plant, the root, the twigs, everything becomes asur. And now we have a shas kosher on the plant. This seed, for instance, before hashrasha, before it took root, it was mutter. It only became asur after it took root. So since it had a shas kosher before taking root, so even klei kerem had a shas kosher. So that explains the comparison, the parallel to basar b'chalav. In both cases, there was a point in time where they were mutter, and then they became asur. So that's how we could equate one to the other. Just like a klei kerem, after it becomes asur. To what extent is it asur? Even with regards to Isra, no. So likewise, basar b'chalav, despite the fact that it had a shas kosher, it was mutter before it was mixed with the milk. Right now, once you've created that new entity of basar b'chalav, it is asur not only by chila, but even by no. That's a chiddush. That when you bring something into a kerem and you plant it, not only does the addition, what grew inside the kerem becomes asur, but everything else, the entire plant, the seed itself becomes asur as well, once it took root in the kerem. Masav Rashmai, is that the case? That the entire plant, the entire seed becomes asur? We have a Mishnah which says, Hamavir otzit nokuv b'kerem. If a person brings a otzit nokuv, a perforated flower pipe containing, let's say, a vegetable, he brings it through a vineyard. So if it's just for a small moment, just for a second, there's no issur. You need to have some additional growth that took place inside the kerem to make this the content of the flower pot asur. Im hoisef masayim asur. If the additional growth of this vegetable in the vineyard equals masayim, a 200th of the total volume of the plant. So now we have 199 portions of pre-existing plant, of heter, which grew outside the vineyard, and a 200th, one portion of 200, that grew inside the kerem. So there's less than 200 times of heter than the issur. Asur, then it's asur, because the only time it would be batal is if the portion that grew in the kerem, the portion of issur, is less than a 200th of the total amount. Rashi brings that truma is batal on 100, klei kerem, due to the fact that it's asur b'achila and hana, the requirement is doubled. So only if you have one portion of issur versus 200 times that amount of heter, then it's batal. But in this case, since you have 1/200th of the total amount, which is asur, so it's 199 of heter versus 1 of issur, in this case, there's not enough of heter to be batal. So it's asur. Hoisif in. Yeah, if we got that addition, it's asur. Loisif loy, but if there's no addition, it's mutter. Now, if you maintain that the entire plant becomes asur, so why do we need that hoisafa? As soon as you bring the plant into the kerem, the plant is now present in the kerem, begins growing, it automatically connects to the kerem, it creates this kalayim, and it's asur. So who needs that addition? That hoisafa. Amar Rava. So Rava responds as follows. Trei kroi ksivi. There are actually two psukim which seem to contradict each other, and based on the resolution of those psukim, we'll have a solution to our kasha. Ksiv hazara. On the one hand, the pasuk says that when you bring something in the kalai kerem, in the kerem, so the zera becomes aser. The pasuk actually says, "Leisizra karmacha kalayim, pen tigdash hamaleya hazera." So the malaya, meaning the additional growth, becomes aser, and hazera, the actual seed, the original plant, becomes aser. So on the one hand, it says ksiv hazera, the actual seed, uksiv hamalaya, what gets added, what grows in the kerem. So which one is it? Is it the growth, or even the original plant and seed? Okay, Tzad, how do you understand this? Zorua meikarai ba'ashrasha. If this thing initially is planted in the vineyard, then as long as it's hashrasha, as long as it takes root, then it becomes aser. Even the actual seed, everything becomes aser. But something has to happen, it has to take root. Merely by bringing it through the kerem, there's no iser. Once it takes roots, then the entire thing becomes aser. Zorua, but if the item had already been planted to begin with, for instance, it was planted in this flower pot, now it's being brought through the vineyard, hoisif in, loy hoisif loy. Yeah, then if there's an addition, as we said earlier, if there's a portion which is greater than a 200th, in that case, yes, there's isser loy hoisif loy. If there was no addition, then it's not aser. So granted, the entire thing becomes aser, but something has to happen. It has to somehow connect. It has to be a taking of root here, a hashrasha. And then the entire thing becomes aser, or a significant haisafa and growth. Then you're right, not only the addition becomes aser, the entire plant, the entire seed, everything becomes aser. As long as something happened, something significant occurred, a hashrasha or a safa. But once that happens, the entire thing becomes aser, and therefore, Kalai Kerem certainly had a shasa kosher, because once we determine that the entire plant becomes aser, that very plant was mutter, that seed was mutter at a certain point in time, namely before the Yasufa occurred, before the Hashrasha occurred. And that explains the early Gemara that we can connect Basar B'chalav, which had a shasa kosher, to Kalai Kerem, which also had a shasa kosher. In both cases, there was a point in history when they were mutter, and despite that leniency, we see that Kalai Kerem turns into a complete Isser, not only Isser Achila, but also Isser Bahana, and that forms the basis for the Isser Hana by Basar Chalav as well. So, conclusion, according to Abaye, although generally speaking, when it comes to your typical Isser Achila and Isser Hana, Malchus will only apply when a person consumes it in a conventional, normal method, normal manner, but Shaloi Kederach Achila or Hana exempts him from Malchus. However, we have two exceptions. One is Kalai Kerem, one is Basar B'chalav, and the reason in both is because there's no Lashon of Achila mentioned, and Achila indicates normalcy and Kederach, but if there's no Lashon Achila, then the Malchus applies even if it was ingested or had Hana, Shaloi Kederach. From where do we know that there's an Issa Achila and Hana Basar B'chalav? So the Issa Achila is learned from the Gzera Shava to Treifa, and Hana from Al Kavachomer, based on Orla, Chametz and Pesach, and Kalai Kerem. Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Ba'koy Misrapen. A person may use even something which is Asar B'Hana to heal himself for the sake of refuah, Chutz me'atzi Asherah, except for the Asherah wood, which cannot supply refuah. Rashi explains, because when a person uses the Atzi Asherah, nira kemoide ba, it appears like he's being moida. It's like he's worshipping the Avodah Zarah. Taisus learns, we're speaking that this fellow is using the Asherah wood, the Asherah wood which was worshipped, because of its unique qualities, which is present in the Atzi Asherah. Taisus says, like the shadim that are associated with the Atzi Asherah. So in that case, it can pull a person to this Avodah Zarah. It's asi lamiti. It can cause a person to be drawn to it. The Ran learns the Isser here is based on the pasuk which says lo yidbak b'chama umam and acherim. A person can't have any connection, any hana from Avodah Zarah related materials. So one can use any Isser hana for the sake of refuah except for the Atzi Asherah. The Gemara will tell us even if it involves pikuach nefesh. Says, what are we speaking about? Are we speaking that his life's in danger? Then even Atzei Ashera can be used. It's Pekuach Nefesh, which overrides any Isser. And if we're speaking that his life is not in danger, in that case, then any other Isser Hana as well should not be allowed to use. Why are you singling out Atzei Ashera? Says the Gemara, certainly we're speaking that his life's in danger. Even so, Atzei Ashera, one cannot partake in Atzei Ashera since it involves Avodah Zarah. The Sanya, we learned in the Brisa that person is meant to be willing to give up his life in order to avoid being over Avodah Zarah. The Sanya Blazer Omer, the Pasuk says, V'aftas Hashem alakecha, you meant to love Hashem b'chol levavcha, with your entire heart, even the Yetzer Hara, as the Gemara in Bracha says, with your entire life, your entire being, to give up even your life for the sake of Avas Hashem. You're meant to generate and discover a deeper love for Hashem as your true life and essence, even if it means giving up your physical life, which is just your secondary existence. So Avas Hashem surpasses even that. And even your assets and your money. Now the question is, why does the pasuk have to speak about nafshecha and moedecha, your life and your assets? The pasuk should say whichever one's more important. State that one and everything else included. Im nemar b'chol nafshecha. The pasuk already speaks about b'chol nafshecha. Lo mer nemar b'chol moedecha. Why speak about your money? If your nefesh is more important, then just say that and everything else included. Im nemar b'chol moedecha. If the pasuk speaks about your assets, your money, to give that up for Avos Hashem. So if that's the most important thing, then just leave it at that. Why add b'chol nafshecha? Let the pasuk just say the one that's more important, and everything else is automatically included. However, the pasuk is telling you like this. It depends on the individual. To some people, their life is more important than their money. To others, their money plays more, is more prominent, is more important than their life. So that's why the pasuk covers both bases. Sometimes you have a person whose money, whose guf is more prominent, more important to him than his money. That's what the pasuk says. You meant to give up even the most important asset, your guf, your life. However, if you have a person whose money is more dear to him than his very guf, so the Torah addresses him as well. That's what the pasuk says. You meant to give up even your money. So the pasuk is covering all possibilities. Avas Hashem is meant to be greater and deeper and surpass your love for the thing that's the most dear and most important to you, the guf or money. This concept will apply not only to Avodah Zarah, but also to other Averos Chamuris, to the three cardinal sins. Also Ravin, when Ravin came, he said, Amar Rav Yechanan, he said the name of Yechanan. So we had Rabbi Yaakov in the name of Yechanan regarding Atzei Ashera. When Ravin came, he added the follows in the name of Yechanan. Bakom Misrapen, you can use anything for a four, even Isra Hana, Chutz Ma'avodah Zarah, Vigili Arayos, Ushlichos Damim. So any Avera, any Isra Hana can be used for a four, certainly if it involves Sakana. So in that case, you could even use it Kederech Hana. If it's only a sickness which doesn't involve Sakana, we're going to learn soon in the Gemara, and that can be used Shaloi Kederech. So the Chiddush here is that in any case, even if there's a Sakana, you cannot use something, you cannot employ any of these Averos. Avodah Zarah, Gili Arayos, or Shvichas Damim. So a person cannot engage in any of these things, even if it's to save his life, to pull him out of a sickness where his life's in danger. Says the Gemara, Avodah Zarah, Hodamar. What comes to Avodah Zarah, as we just said, from the pasuk of Ahavta Hashem Elokecha, B'chol levavcha, B'chol nafshecha u'moedecha. And Avodah Zarah negates the allegiance and love to Hashem. Gilei Arayos, Shvichas Damim. From where do we know that the same concept applies to Gilei Arayos? A person can engage in Arayos, even if it's to save his life, or shvichas damim, a person cannot kill somebody, even in order to save his own life. The Sanya, Rabbi Yehuda. This is the pasuk by a nara hamurasa. It's a young woman who's engaged, and the pasuk says that somebody pursued her for the sake of his nus, and she wasn't at fault. She called out, there was nobody to help her. The pasuk says she's exempt, she's pater, because it was an einus, was unwilling. And the pasuk says like this: you know why she's pater? Ki kasher yakum ish al re'eu urtzach nefesh. Just as a person gets up al re'eu and kills him. Kain hadavar zeh. This thing is similar and equated to that, which would seem that we're drawing a parallel. Just as in that case, the victim is not held accountable, it's not his fault. Likewise here, the Isha, the Nara, the young girl, is not held accountable for what happened. Now, the kasha is, why do we need to learn from Ritzeach? As Rashi explains that the pasuk by Naro Murasa already tells us that she's pater, because the pasuk says there's nobody to help her, and it's pretty clear that she's pater. There's nothing we can do. She's not at fault. So why do we need to connect? Why do we need that connection from Ritzeach? V'chima inyan Ritzeach itzel nara marasa. What's the point of connecting Ritzeach to nara marasa? Well, what is it teaching us? Says the Gemara, you're right. Regarding the exemption, the ptur oinus of this nara, that's derived from the pasuk by nara itself. The pasuk says, "V'la nara le'isasa davar." Don't do anything to her. It's not her fault. So Ritzeach is not actually teaching us anything with regards to her ptur. It appears that the concept of murder is coming to teach us something by na'ara hamurasa, v'nim tzalamed, but actually it's in the reverse. That the halacha of na'ara hamurasa will actually teach something, a halachic chiddush for Ritzeach. So the Ritzeach seems to be lilamid, to come for the sake of teaching something, but actually it's going to learn something from Nara Murasa. In what way? Makish Ritzeach Nara Murasa. The pasuk is connecting murder, Ritzeach, to Nara Murasa. In what way? Ma Nara Hamurasa. Just as the Nara Murasa, Nitan Latzila, you're allowed to save her b'nafshay, by killing the nefesh of the one who's pursuing her. But the pasuk says, when she called out, there's nobody to save her, nobody to come to her rescue. Apparently, if there is a way to rescue her, you're meant to do so even at the expense of killing the person who's pursuing her for Avera. There's no other way to save her, you can even kill him. So Nitan Latzila b'nafsha, you can save her through killing the nefesh of the pursuer. After Ritzeach, likewise, when it comes to Ritzeach, Nitan Latzila b'nafsha. One is allowed to save the victim by killing the Ritzeach. So this is learned from Nara Murasa to Ritzeach. And we learn something in the other direction as well. V'Nara Hamurasa Ritzeach. Since the pasuk connects the two concepts, so we learn in both directions. We learn from Nara to Ritzeach, as we just said, and likewise, Nara can learn from Ritzeach. V'Nara Hamurasa Ritzeach. In what way? Just as when it comes to murder, a person must be willing to allow himself to be killed, va'al yavar, in order to avoid transgressing. For instance, if a person's threatened, well, I'll kill you if you don't kill that person. A person must forego his life to avoid killing somebody. So, the Isra of Ritzicha overrides Pikuach Nefesh. Af Nara Murasa. Likewise, Nara Murasa, Tiharg Val Tavar, she should be willing to give up her life to avoid being over the Isser of Gilui Arayis. Now Tosfos points out that we're not Geras Tiharg Val Tavar. Actually, the Mon Jun, instead of saying Tiharg, which is referring to the Nara, the girl, the Gemara says Yeharg Val Yavar. So the Oiver, the man, if he's forced to do Gilui Arayis, he's meant to give up his life to avoid doing the Isser. Tosfos explains because the Isha is not obligated to give up her life because she's not actually doing a masa. She's not actively involved in the Gilui Arayis. So she says karka olam hi. It's just like they floor the ground. So unless she's actively involved, she's not mechuyev to give up her life for the Isser. The man who's actually doing the Isser, he must be willing to give up his life to avoid the Aver. Okay, so in any case, we learn a two-way limud. Pasuk connects Ritzicha to Gilui Arayis, and we learn just like by Gilui Arayis, you meant to save the Isha from the Avera, even at the expense of killing the pursuer. Likewise, Ritzicha, you can go ahead and save the victim by killing the Ritzech. And just as Ritzeach, we are certain that a person is meant to give up his life in order to avoid Ritzicha. Ritzicha overrides, is more important than Pikuach Nefesh. Likewise, when it comes to Gilui Arayis, a person is meant to give up his life to avoid the Aver. Now, how do we know? You're assuming it as a for granted that Ritzicha overrides Pikuach Nefesh. Ushvichas damim gufei min olam. How do we know when it comes to Shvichas damim, a person is meant to give up his life to avoid the Aver? Svaru. It's common sense. Yehuda Asal kamei Rava. Just as in the incident where a person approached Rava with a shaila. Amarle, he told him, I have a problem. Mari Duroy, the master of my town, Amarle, he threatened me like this. Zil katle leplanya. Go kill Shimon. Viloi, if you don't comply, katlina loch, I'm going to kill you. So he asked Rava, what should I do? I'm being threatened. Should I do the Ritzicha to save my life? Is Pekuach Nefesh more important than the Aver? Amarle, so Rava responded, no. Lik teluch, let him kill you. V'loi siktal, you don't kill. Why? Well, what are you thinking? Well, Pikuach Nefesh is more important than the Avera. Well, that's true in your typical scenario. Yeah, the Torah wants the Nefesh Yisrael to be saved, even at the expense of an Avera. But in this case it's different. In this case it's very different because this is an Avera which involves killing a Yid. So, at any rate, a Nefesh Yisrael will be lost. It's not like Pikuach Nefesh here will override the Avera. A Nefesh will be killed. It's just a question of your Nefesh or Shimon's Nefesh. Who says your life is more important? My Chazis. What makes you think that your blood is redder than your friends and more important and plays a more significant role in Hashem's world? Dilma dama dahu gavra sumak tvei. Perhaps the blood of that person is redder than yours, and that life is meant to be preserved. So, since in this case, at any rate, is going to be a nefesh lost, who says your nefesh is more important? Therefore, there's no justification for killing. So, allow yourself to be killed rather than do shvichas damim and kill your friend. Ma Ravashi. Ravashi noticed Ravina, the Shayef la librate. He was smearing on his daughter who was ill. He was using Bikuharki de Arla, using the unripe olives of Arla, which are asabahana, and he was having enough from it. He was using it for refuah. Amar lei, so Ravashi told him, Amor the Amar Rabbanon b'shas hasakana. Yeah, when did the Rabbanon allow using Isur Hana in a time of danger, when a person's life is endangered? Shleibus has sakana mi amar. But if it doesn't involve sakana, how can you use it? And you're not a case of sakana. Amar lei, so he told him, no. Hi ishta, tzmirta, this ishta, this fire, tzmirta, this fever, nami, is also kishasa sakana damya, is considered shasa sakana. Her life's in danger, and that's how I'm using the Isra Hana for her refuah. So as long as it doesn't involve the three Averis Chamuris, Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayis, Shvichas Damim, I can use something even of Arla, which is Asur Hana, for the sake of refuah. Igad Amri is another version of his response, which was, the question was, how can you use this Isra Hana? It doesn't involve Sakana. So he told him, Amalei, Midi Derech Hana Ka'avidna? Am I using it in the conventional manner, in a normal way of consuming it, of having anah? These olives are unripe. At this point, this is not the normal way of consuming them. You're meant to let it ripen and press it in the olive press. So this is considered to be an abnormal manner of having hana, and therefore it can be used even if the refuah is not in a life-threatening context. Even if it's a choyle she'en b'sakana, I can use something which is asur b'hana as long as it's sheloi kederech hana, because sheloi kederech hana is only midrabanan, and they allowed it to be used in a situation of refuah even if his life is not in danger. Okay, so in conclusion, we learned that the general rule when it comes to isur hana is that if a person partakes sheloi kederech in an abnormal manner, malchus will not be applied except for basar b'chalav and klei hakerem. But when it comes to other isurim, if it's shloi kederech, he's pater for malchus, but midrabanan it would still be asur. So what about using isur hana for the sake of refuah? It depends. If we're dealing with a choyle she'ein b'sakana, whose life is not in danger, then using the isur hana kederech would be asur, but shloi kederech would be mutter. If we're speaking about a choyle she'yesh b'sakana, so life is in danger, in that case, if he needs to, he can partake in the isur hana, even kederech, because pekuach nefesh overrides the isurim, except for 3 isurim, which is avodah zarah, gilui arayos, and shvichas dam. Continues the Gemara, Itma, we learned, hana'a haba'a lo l'adam ba'al karchay. If a person is experiencing an hana, an unwilling hana, he's walking through the street, and he detects a pleasant aroma wafting through the air, originating from avodah zarah. So he's experiencing the hana, but it's ba'al karchay. He wasn't seeking the hana. Abaye Omar muteres. Abaye says it's muter. He doesn't have to run away. V'Rava Omar asura. Rava says the hana is asur. He has to get away from the scene. So, what is the context of this discussion? Efshar. Now, if he has an easy way out, is an easy alternative, he could just get away easily. V'kamachaven, and he also happens to have kavanah. He intends on having the hana from this isur. So when both of these elements are present, on the one hand, he has an easy way out. And number 2, mentally, he's connected. He's intending on having the kavanah. So since both negative elements are here, certainly all would agree that it's us. Likewise, lo yafshar v'kamachaven, if he has no easy route out, v'kamachaven, but he has kavanah to have a hana, kuli amale pligi de asur. All would agree. Abaye and Rava both agree that it's asur. So there's no discussion, there's no machlekes in that case. Likewise, lo yavshar v'lo mechaven. If we have 2 positive elements here, lo yavshar, there's no easy way to get out of the area. V'lo mechaven, and in addition to that, he has no kavanah, he has no intent on having hana. So since both favorable elements are there, kuli amale pligi the shari, all would agree. Abaye and Rava both agree that it's mutter. So when is the machlekes? In a very specific case, ki pligi, the machlekes is the efshar. If there's an easy alternative, he has an easy way to get out of the area. V'loy mechaven. However, he has no kavanah to have hana. He doesn't want it, he doesn't need it. Now, v'aliv with Rabbi Yehuda the Amar, davar shen miskaven asur. According to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that generally speaking, if a person engages in an activity without kavanah, it's still asur. For instance, a malacha, isur. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even if there's no kavanah, it's still asur, because at the end of the day, he's doing something isur. So according to him, kuli amale pligi de asur. All would agree. Abaye and Rava both agree that it's asur. So in this case, despite the fact that he has no kavanah, but according to Rabbi Yehuda, kavanah is not reckoned with. The bottom line is, he's standing there and he has a way to get out of the area. It's efshar. So although he's loy mechaven, that's not a reason to be mat. So again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it certainly would be asur. Ki pligi aliba de Rabbi Shimon. The machlokes between Abaye and Rava is in line with Shitas Rabbi Shimon. The Omar davar shein miskaven mutter. He says that if a person is experiencing an incidental hana or engaged in a malacha but without kavanah, it's mutter. Lack of intent mitigates the entire concern. So that forms the basis of our discussion. We're speaking again that he's experiencing hana ba'al karcha. He's not pursuing the hana, he's not seeking the hana. But efshar, he has a easy and convenient route to get away from there. But, like mechaven, he has no intention of having the hana. And according to Rav Shimon, generally speaking, a davar she'ein miskaven is mutter. What is the halacha here? Abaye Reb Shimon. Abaye says, look, Reb Shimon is mater. There's no kavanah. There's no intent. It's mutter. Despite the fact that efsher, he can, if he wishes to, he can get away from here. Since there's no kavanah, it's irrelevant. V'Rava Amar, Rava says, look, ad kan leika Amar Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon only allows elahecha de efsher. If he has no way out, if he has no easy way out, if he has no easy alternative, yeah, and the fact that he has no kavanah exempts him and is mater. But if it's efsher, just turn around and go away. Then in that case, even Reb Shimon would not allow. So according to this version of the Gemara, we're speaking about a case where he has no kavanah to have the hana, but efsher, he has an easy way out. Tosha says, bekal, he can get away from the area, from the scene easily. So according to Abaye, it's a lack of kavanah that determines, and according to Reb Shimon, it's mutter. Rava says, both factors are needed, both elements. Both favorable elements join together to make it mutter. Lack of kavanah on the one hand, but also has to be something which is loy efshar. He has no easy way to avoid the situation. As opposed to this case, where it's efshar, and even according to Shimon, it would be asur. So we're speaking about efshar, v'loy kamachaven, in accordance to Shimon. Abaye says mutter, Rava says asur. Igada amri. There's a second version of the machlekes here, which holds differently. Efshar v'loy machaven, in this most recent case, where it was efshar to get away, but loy machaven, hainu pluktayu to Rabbi Yehuda Reb Shimon. Yeah, this is the very machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon. All agree, even Abaye and Rava, both agree that according to Reb Shimon would be mutter. Why? Because there's no kavanah. Despite the fact that it's efshar, he has a way to disappear from the scene, it's okay, because lack of kavanah removes this. So according to the second approach here, there's no machlekes in this case of loy machaven. According to Reb Shimon, certainly it's mutter. Loy efshar v'loy kamachaven. If he had no way, no easy way to get away from the scene, v'loy kamachaven, and he has no kavanah to have the hana, so we have two favorable elements. Kuli al malay pligi the shari. According to all shitas, it's mutter. Ki pligi. When then is the machlekes between Rav and Abaye? The lo yavshar v'kamachaven. Lo yavshar, he can't easily free himself of the situation. V'kamachaven. However, once I'm here, he has a no. He has kavanah to have a no. Now, let's analyze further. Vali with Reb Shimon. According to Reb Shimon, the ozl basar kavanah, who follows the kavanah determinant, he says that kavanah is what decides matters. That's why lack of kavanah is mutter. So according to Reb Shimon, kavanah, the kavanah factor plays an important role. It's a prime determinant. So according to him, in this case, although it's loy efshar, he has no easy way to avoid the situation, but he's having kavanah. So according to Reb Shimon, of course it's asur. Kuli amalei pligi de asur. Whether Abaye or Rava both agree that according to Reb Shimon it's asur, because kavanah is what sets the tone according to Reb Shimon, right? According to Reb Shimon, lack of kavanah exempts, right? It makes it mutter. So when he has kavanah, certainly that would make it asur. That would form the basis for isur. So despite the fact that he has no easy way to avoid the situation, why are you having kavanah? Kavanah connects you to it. So according to Reb Shimon it's asur. Ki pligi ali b'd Rabbi Yehuda. Machlekes between Abaye and Rava is based on Rabbi Yehuda's shit. So in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda, we have a question. Rabbi Yehuda says that even if a person has no kavanah, it's still asur. Rabbi Yehuda says the Omar loishna miskaven v'loishna she'ein miskaven. Whether or not he has kavanah, what is halacha? Efshar, asur. If he has a way to avoid the situation, it's asur. Right? That was the machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda says, even if there's no kavanah, but if you have a way to avoid it, it's asur. Lack of kavanah does not remove the isur. So perhaps it would seem that according to Rabbi Yehuda, what is the prime determinant? What is the only determinant? Whether or not you can avoid the isur. So if you can avoid, it's efshar, it's asur, even if there's no kavanah. Likewise, says Abaye, in our case, where it's lo yafsha, So you don't have the efshar factor here. It's unavoidable. According to Rabbi Yehuda, efshar is what determines. So if it's lo efshar, it's mutter. Even if he has kavanah, who cares about kavanah? According to Rabbi Yehuda, kavanah is not reckoned with. Abayik Rabbi Yehuda. Therefore, Abayi says it's mutter. He says, according to Rabbi Yehuda, I'm following Rabbi Yehuda, and kavanah, who cares about intent? Whoever's discussed intent. That's not a factor to reckon with. The only factor to reckon with is whether or not you can avoid the situation easily. So just as Rabbi Yehuda says, if it's efshar, if you can avoid it easily, it's asur, even if it's loy mechaven, even if you have no intent to receive that hana, because who cares about intent? If it's efshar, it's asur. So on the flip side as well, says Abayi, if it's loy efshar, if he has no easy way to avoid it, it's mutter. Even if he has kavanah, because kavanah is not something to be reckoned with. That's Abayi's approach according to Rabbi. So again, we're speaking about loy efshar, become a chaven. Says Abayi, if it's loy efshar, it's pater. Rava says like this. No, not so fast. You're right. That according to Rabbi Yehuda, if it's efshar, it's asur. Even if there's no kavanah. Efshar b'lekim mechaven is asur. Davar she'en miskaven is asur. Ad kan l'karam Rabbi Yehuda. When do we find Rabbi Yehuda says the iser she'en miskaven ki miskaven? Yeah, even when there's no kavanah, it's like kavanah. Meaning, if it's efshar, if you can avoid the situation, even though he has no kavanah, we ignore that mitigating factor. We treat it as though there's kavanah, because as long as it's efshar, you can avoid it, that forms the basis for isser. That single factor is sufficient to make isser. So we deal with an ein miskaven as though it's miskaven. We ignore the fact that there's a lack of kavanah. The factor of efshar is sufficient to make it us. Ela l'chumra. That's only when it results in a chumra. In that case, he says, let's ignore the fact that there's no kavanah. Let's focus on the fact that it's efshar. That's enough. That's sufficient to make isser. Aval, but on the flip side, to say miskaven k'she'ein miskaven l'kula lo yomar, but to say that in a case where it's lo efshar, it's unavoidable, but there's miskaven here, we have a negative factor playing here. To take it to that extent and say that despite the fact that it's miskaven, let's deal with it like she'ein miskaven. Let's ignore the kavanah, because the only thing that determines, the only thing that sets the tone is efshar. So if it's lo efshar, it's mutter, even if there's a kavanah. No, l'kula lo yomar. To say that miskaven is like a miskaven, just ignore the kavanah and result in a kula. Who says? What do you find that Rabbi Yehuda would agree to that? Perhaps there are both factors playing in contra Rabbi Yehuda. Either or would make it asur. If it's efshar, it's asur, even if there's no kavanah. And likewise, if there's kavanah, it's asur, even if it's lo efshar. So according to this approach in the Gemara, the machlokes applies to a case where it's lo efshar, but there's kavanah. And we're following Shittas Rabbi Yehuda. Abaye says, kavanah? It's irrelevant according to Rabbi Yehuda. As long as it's lo efshar, it's pater. Because that's the only determinant. Efshar or lo efshar. So in this case, when it's lo efshar, it's pater. According to Rava, either or would make it asur. Efshar is asur, even if there's a lack of kavanah. And likewise, if there's kavanah, even in the case of lo efshar. So in summary, when a person is experiencing hana ba'al karcha, Abaye says it's mutter, Rava says it's asur. Version 1 of the Gemara is, we're speaking about a case where it's efshar, can easily avoid the situation, but he has no kavanah. We're following Rav Shimon Shita, who says lack of kavanah is mutter. Says Abaye, it's mutter. Rava says, yeah, but that's only when it's lo efshar. But in this case, we can easily avoid the isser, even according to Rav Shimon, it would be asur, because two factors are needed to make it mutter. Lo mechaven and lo efshar. According to version 2 in the Gemara, we're discussing Rabbi Yehuda's Shita. We're speaking about a case where lo efshar, he can't easily avoid the isser, and he has kavanah. Abaye says it's mutter, because as long as it's lo efshar, that's okay. Rava says, Rabbi Yehuda applies the isser to one of two cases. Either when it's efshar, even with lack of kavanah, and likewise in the case of kavanah, even if it's lo efshar. As long as there's one factor in the negative, that is sufficient to make it us. Okay, time for a brief chazara of today's daf. We began with a discussion of hana shaloi kederech. A person enjoys isser hana in a non-conventional manner is pater. Says Abaye, we have two exceptions. Basar b'chalav and kalei kerem. because the Torah doesn't use the word achila there. And therefore any form of hana would entail malchus. We discussed that when it comes to kalei kerem, if there's a haisafa, significant addition of growth in the plant while it's in the kerem, it's aser. And not only the additional part becomes aser, but the entire plant and the seed becomes aser as well. We learned that when it comes to isur hana kederach is aser min Torah, shaloi kederach is aser midrabanan. Therefore, when it's a cholesh in b'sakana, he can partake in the isur hana shaloi kederach. If it's yesh b'sakana, that's b'koach nefesh, and it overrides any isur, even isur min Torah, of partaking in the isur hana kederach hana asay. That applies to all isurim except for 3. Avodah gil reis shvichas damim. We concluded in the case of hana b'al karchai, machlekes Abaye and Rav.